confident that your appointments are always made deliberate to avoid the successes of your immediate predecessors.
President Buhari received new envoys to Nigeria, cautions on remaining within diplomatic limits.
Federal government condemns attack on civil defense personnel, employs military to make bandits pay.
INEC extends collection of permanent voter cards to Sunday, 29th January 2023.
Good morning, Nigeria today discusses update on National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System NEMSES.
On 6th of January 2023, Good Morning Nigeria focused on expectations for the health sector for the year. The Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Hanuri, who was one of the guests, said there is more attention in redesigning primary health care in Nigeria to offer 24-hour service delivery with the introduction of effective medical emergency ambulance services at no cost.
Charlie Lee there, and of course he said this is in response to Nigeria's primary healthcare delivery system, especially at the local government levels, which many believe has been challenged with the evidences of deterioration and lack of access to adequate medical services.
Significantly, health statistics indicate that most women die from obstetrics complications and lack of access to quality medical services during pregnancy, contributing largely to the growing number of maternal and infant mortality in developing countries such as Nigeria.
Earlier in 2022, the Federal Ministry of Health signed a memorandum of understanding with the private sector and other stakeholders for the operationalization of the National Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System NEMSES, and this is driven towards reducing mortality figures and engendering improved outcomes for a viral and active emergency medical service and care for citizens generally.
Now, NEMSES was launched in February 2022 with the National Health Insurance Scheme, NHI's Federal Road Safety Corps, the Board of Medical Directors, and the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA.
Quite true, and already the pilot phase has commenced in October with FCT as the first recipient. The emergency medical service is expected to deliver along 3 operational pathways, including coverage of highways and roads, coverage of emergency within states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, with respective authorities, as well as involving workplace-related assault and sports incidents.
Absolutely, Karen. So now, what is the progress so far? Which phase is next, and what is the time frame to deliver service to meet rural community emergency needs? And what is the update on the pilot phase, its challenges and prospects? These and more we shall probe on update on National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System, NEMSES. I am Ian John.
Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria today, reaching you live only on the network service of the NTA. I am Kilian Umar, and as always, we'll bring you other complementary segments, including newspaper review, business, sports, and foreign news. For now, we have news highlights to be delivered by Angie Bruno. Hello, Anne. Good morning. It's good to see you again.
Same here. Good morning, Kilian, and good morning, Nigeria. Here's the news. Nigeria says it is working closely with ECOWAS towards dealing with insecurity as well as containing the spate of unconstitutional changes in government in the West African sub-region. President Muhammadu Buhari stated this while receiving new ambassadors posted to Nigeria, whom he advised to remain within the limits of their diplomatic practices and responsibilities as they monitor the conduct of the forthcoming general elections.
I'm therefore confident that your appointments are always made deliberate to build on the successes of your immediate predecessors in order to advance our nation's significant in global heights.
In the meantime, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is optimistic that the relationship between Nigeria and Spain will continue to be robust and beneficial to the people of the two countries. This was when the Vice President received in audience José Manuel Alvarez, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Spain. The Vice President says the two countries have come a long way and engaging in various mutual trade relations. As he explains, friends will always look out for each other in times of need, and with both countries being confronted with challenges arising from the Russia and Ukraine war, insecurity and food insecurity, as well as climate change issues.
Yes, we're going to be confronted with a changing world. One of the major issues, of course, is in energy. Both energy security and the energy transition.
And I want also to commend the role of Nigeria in stability for the region.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says the President Muhammadu Buhari-led APC administration will deliver more dividends of democracy to Nigerians as the administration winds down. The minister stated this at the 18th edition of the PMB Scorecard Series in Abuja.
These infrastructures alone have cut the journey from the eastern part of the country to Abuja by 3 hours. Today, travelers coming from Enugu to Abuja who have no business in Lafia can come straight to Abuja via Kefi, thereby saving 3 hours as a result of the completion of this bridge and its access road.
Business election matters, INEC has extended the collection of permanent voter cards, PVC, by 8 days instead of ending on Sunday, 22nd January 2023. The collection of PVCs will continue until Sunday, 29th January 2023. Following this extension, collection at ward level is extended by 1 week from Monday, 16th to Sunday, 22nd January 2023, while collection at local government level will resume on Monday 23rd to Sunday 29th January 2023. A statement by INEC's National Commissioner for Information, Festus Okoye, indicates that the Commission is, however, investigating allegations of extortion by officials at some of the collection centers and inducement by some unscrupulous voters to circumvent processes in order to obtain their PVCs. Those found culpable will face disciplinary action. We are working towards the delivery of credible and acceptable 2023 general elections as planned by the nation's highest electoral body, INEC, is on course, and the NTA is already hitting the ground running in realization of the future. Now, the NTA 2022 Management News Conference is a propeller in the build-up to a seamless process with deployment of digital infrastructure on the front burner.
We therefore are confident of delivering the 2023 elections even better because it has always been guided by its own original standards which is aligned in our in-house electoral operational manual.
President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed anguish over the death of 7 personnel of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC) who were killed by bandits in Kaduna State while on official duty. In a statement, the President describes the loss as tragic, saluting the personnel's courage in the service of the nation, condoling with the bereaved families. President Buhari directs the armed forces to seek out the culprits and make them pay the price. Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Iwe and Kieran after the break. We'll stay with us.
The truth untold. We restored democracy. We initiated due process. We created the EFCC and ICPC. We brought Nigeria out of debt by achieving $18 billion worth of relief and $30 billion overall reduction. We revived the rail system. We upgraded agriculture future. We brought in the mobile phone and digitalized Nigeria. Under the PDP, the Nigerian economy was the strongest in Africa. Though Nigerians made their choice, today we all know better. Nigerians, do not despair. Hope is on the horizon. We are putting in the work and refreshing our drive to rescue and rebuild Nigeria. Together, let's make it happen. PDP. Power to the people. As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency. More.
The security challenges we are faced as a government have been daunting, from terrorism to banditry, to kidnapping, to separatist violence, to crude oil theft, to armed robbery and sundry crimes. Is undoubtedly the greatest challenge to the peace and security of our great country since the Civil War of 1967 to 1970. Is the kind of challenge that would have overwhelmed many nations. But thanks to the purposeful leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, we can say, I want to repeat, that the worst is over, and peace and security are gradually returning to the land.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
People of Nigeria don't talk them say na Asiwaju Bola Tinubu they want as president of Nigeria. Our country people get many reasons wey make them all agree say na Asiwaju Bola Tinubu dem choose for this president election. Yes, so Bola Tinubu na man wey sabi anything wey he put in hand he dey work wella. He do better work for Lagos State when he be governor. Till today Lagos people still dey enjoy from all the better things wey jaburata for Lagos. People of Nigeria, e good to make we vote for who sabi. If e come be so, make we all come out for election day and vote Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president of Nigeria. Vote Senator Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC, the party with the broom. Who be the president we go go? Bola Tinubu.
Sportsbet sponsors coverage of the Italian Serie A.
Well, it's nice to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria today. And of course, we go business now. Central Bank of Nigeria says deadline to phase out e-naira note stands. Let's join Kule Adair for details of this and more on business news.
It's less than 20 days to the January 31st deadline date when the old Naira notes will cease to be legal tender. Consequently, the Apex Bank has commenced open sensitization on why people should change their old 200, 500 and 1000 Naira notes for the new ones.
If you have the old currency, please take them to the commercial banks and they will be acceptable or be accepted. there is no limit to how much a customer can deposit between now and January 31st, 2023, as the CBN has suspended bank charges.
Those that do bulk banking, we also advise you to please use our internet channels. We have the mobile bankers, we have the POS agents, we have the USSD, the internet banking, and so forth. Please, commercial banks are here. Their doors are open from Monday to Saturdays for you to go in and make deposit.
The Central Bank of Nigeria had earlier directed that deposit money banks should stop issuance of the old Naira notes to the public from Friday.
To the more advocacy, they should talk to the people in the rural area. There is need for them to take whatever they have at home to the bank and change it before on or before 31st of this January 2023.
Central Bank says people should not wait till the deadline dates to deposit old Naira notes to avoid congestion at commercial banks. With business news, I'm Kule Adireye.
Many thanks, Kunle, for that business package. It's now time for newspaper review.
Now it's time to welcome Chukwudi Okore Ubaja. He's here with us as always. Here, newspaper review. You're welcome, Chukwudi. Thank you. Yeah.
Good morning, Chukwudi. Welcome. Alright, so we'll begin this morning with the Punch newspaper, and just looking at the boldest headline in the front page of the Punch this morning, we have budget deficit rises 370%, hits 47 trillion naira under Buhari. The writer says President to pass on $15.62 billion Euro bond repayments to next government. You can read up the details on page 20 of the Punch. Beside the masthead, we have 648 cases brought against President and the federal government, and that is credited to the AGF. Above the masthead, we have ballot paper. That's the kicker. Local printers set to sue INEC. The writer Commission extends BBC's collection till January 29, and details can be found on pages 2 and 29 of the Punch. Next to that, we have federal government rules Spanish investors for 7 oil blocks, and details is on page 19. Looking below the picture story of the Punch this morning, we have Be Guided by Diplomatic Practice. Federal government urges envoys. And below that story, we have government kill 4 Anambra vigilantes, bomb 5 buildings. 3 teenage kidnappers demand 2 million naira for Kano girl. And finally, from the front page of the Punch this morning, we have EFCC shortlist 26 bidders for forfeited assets. Alright, away from the Punch now, just a quick look at the Daily Trust. Now we have Tinubu, Atiku, Kwankwaso, Obi scramble for Kano's 5.9 million votes. The riders, APC banking and Buhari, Gandhi, others. PDP relying on Shekarau. Work against me and regret it. Kwankwaso wants Gandhi. Why Kano is the bride. And that's coming from Professor Fage. Above that boarders headline of the Daily Trust this morning, we have Katsina governorship, Rada, Ladu, Khalil, Gino, Tauba for Daily Trust Town Hall tomorrow. And then we have INEC extends PBC's collection. Of course, that's on all the dailies this morning by 1 week. CBN to sanction banks holding new Naira notes, and details can be found on page 19 of the Daily Trust. And just below the picture story at the bottom of the Daily Trust this morning, we have EFCC releases Okupe after the ESS arrest over outdated watch list. And then Kano hubby heads to court as wife joins film industry. Very interesting story there. And why I staged my kidnap, collected ransom from church members. That is coming from a pastor. You want to read that on page 17 of the Daily Trust. So that's it. Let's take a look at the Daily Sun.
Yeah, thank you. And Daily Sun newspaper this morning, from top to bottom, INEC bows to pressure, extends time frame for PVC collection. investigates allegations of extortions, discriminatory issuance of cards. It's on page 26. That's where you get that. 4K, there's gunmen attack Anambra community, is on page 4. Buhari warns the international community on election, tells them to be guided by diplomatic practice. We wish Nigeria well. And voice is on page 6 of the Sun newspaper. Alright, below that we have other stories. Don't hand Nigeria over to people who cannot govern. That's will be as political. Now DSS admits error in Okupe's arrest. LP flays action. It's on page 28. Customs rakes in 1.022 trillion revenue, intercepts 157 containers of tramadol and other drugs. It's on page 22. That's where you get that details. Supreme Court gives Jade Waboshi fresh date to challenge 7 years imprisonment. Details on page 5. Total BVN registrations now stand at 56.57 million. It's on page 2. Make bandits pay for 7 civil defense personnel killed at mining site. President orders the military. Below the further story, the federal government to recover 6.3 million pounds and $390 million, 5.4 million pounds a year from proceeds of crime forfeited assets. Yes, that's a good story there. On page 27, government approves 24.4 billion for smart irrigation scheme. That's according to the executive vice chairman of Naseni, Professor Haruna. For more on that, go to page 25 of Daily Sun newspaper. Chugodi, I'm sure you're itching to come in here. Yes, with some trending stories.
I would itch because it's the season of elections, and the bedrock of democracy is elections. So we are likely to keep on talking elections till February 25 and even till March 11. So INEC, bowing to pressure, extending deadline for PVC collection, by 8 days. It was supposed to end on January 22. Now it is January 29. Now they are saying that they're investigating allegations of extortions, discriminatory issuance of cards. Naturally, you would expect a few discrepancies here and there in the process of giving out these PVCs. Now, INEC Chairman of Information and Voter Education, that's Festus Okoye, is happy about the surge by people to collect their PVCs, and I think that should make everyone happy. Just yesterday we said that 43% of the people registered to vote are people who have not registered before, and they are young people. And we said that some kind of earthquake is about to happen in the electoral process in this country. It is not just voter awareness now, it is voter participation we are anticipating. I know that Yere mentioned yesterday that not everybody who registers actually comes out of it, which is quite true. But with what was the word I used yesterday? Deluge, like a flood. With the numbers, which are rather thick, of people who are prospective voters getting onto the register, I think it is something we should all be very happy about. And the last minute collection is not something we should not have expected, if anyone is surprised. People like to reserve things for the last minute in this country. I don't know why. Maybe I'm even one of them. So let me not sound too sanctimonious, but I'm trying to change. So nobody should have thrown bricks my way. Okay? If you don't change, how do you expect everybody to change? Now the point, we must give a good example. I bought my PVC anyway. And the good thing is that instead of saying, okay, those of you around Carrier, come to the court, that's the roundabout there. They are now moving to the places close to where you would vote. My son collected his own just about not more than 15 meters away from where we live. And that, I think, is a good distribution mode. My take on bound to pressure is that I just wonder
why you keep doing one thing, the same thing always, year in, year. I mean, this issue of deadlines. I don't know, can we do away with deadlines when we are doing, when we're carrying out any process, not just election? All things that we do. For me, that word is military. Deadline. Like those days, immediate effect, deadline. Why are we having deadline? That's what brings up the pressure you're talking about. If there's a space out period of collection, for me, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know why people should not collect their PVCs up to 15th of February. You got to collect your PVC to vote. I don't know why people should not collect their PVC up to 15th of February. I don't know. I want to throw in a slightly different perspective to it. Yes. INEC has never registered 93,469,008 voters in this country. Mm-hmm. The sheer number of people who are signifying interest to be part of the plebiscite. But you're putting a deadline. So I would not say that INEC has shown any terrible shortcoming. In fact, I'm saying that nobody really has a great complaint against INEC as we speak. Buying to pleasure Chukwudi means that what they originally wanted to do, they didn't have ordered well for these explanations you are giving now. I didn't come the other time to assassinate what some people think is the bad character of journalists. Bowing to pressure is an editor's choice of words. What would you have used? I would have said INEC extends by their own discretion and all that. That's not a terrible thing.
I think the bow to pressure is very accurate in this. Because initially they said they were not going to extend, the collection dates for. When we had INEC official here, I remember vividly, and then they said, well, they're going to stick with what they had in their calendar, as regards when collection would end and move on to other things and all of that. And then as regards extension, I think that a lot needs to be done, probably maybe before the next election. The reason why I'm very sure a lot of people still don't get their PVCs even with the extension is because those who registered afresh are part of those collecting. Those who had one or two changes in their PVCs are also collecting. I remember asking that question the day we had an official here. Why is it not possible for those who are just changing their wards or changing their name or changing their polling unit or something? What can they collect at the point where they are making those changes? That way, it reduces the traffic at this, collection period. So it's just those who are registering afresh, for example, or those who have misplaced their card, for example, are the ones who are going to be collecting now. That way, it will reduce the pressure. And don't talk about the fact that too many people registered. INEC should be able to handle the number of people we have in this country. I mean, we have the statistics of the number of people in the country. Participation over the years. So people are coming out. You are not having issues with continuing. The expectation for people to be few. The expectation is that those who are eligible to register and economist loses criticism. He or she loses the first tool of trade. So it's understandable what's coming from your side. Okay, I told you, I am one of those journalists that will tell you that the cup is half full of water. Okay, not half empty. Yes. Now let's look at this story. Buhari warns international community on election, tells them to be guided by diplomatic practice only. I think why I'm concerned about this is because of what happened a couple of months ago when a government announced that Abuja will be attacked, and in fact said they evacuated their staff and all of that. Many countries keyed into that. I think that was panicky because it made Nigeria or rather Abuja look as if it's not safe. That wasn't too good, and countries that have all it takes, to gather intelligence, and it's giving a kind of wrong information, regarding security in the city, and they didn't really sit well with the administration, and that's what I think the reason why Buhari that mentioned that particularly, please be guided. When Kingsley and I discussed this, for crying out loud, when is he returning? I miss him. When we talked about it the other time, Kingsley dropped a characterization I liked. He said the Anglo-Saxon press sometimes would do things in a way that
the continent, the African continent, is not treated in good light. So people can be dismissive of what's happening on the continent. We should no longer be talking about they are presenting us in bad light and all that. Our job is to continue to do good, continue to do well for our country. Abuja is going to burn and all that. For crying out loud, today we celebrated Christmas without incident. We celebrated New Year without incident. I think we should beat our chest and say, well,
I agree totally, and I think the warning is also, in good place, and it's good it's coming so early, because remember when that panic attack, actually came out, a lot of people were really scared, and some schools shut down, thinking that it was true and all of that. So it is good that this warning is coming from the president at this time, just so that it can stay clear and not create any kind of tension. Because as you mentioned yesterday, some comments from the international community could actually deter voters from participating in the election. Exactly. The credibility of the election at the end of the day. So, well, because of time, I think we'll just leave it at this point for now. Many thanks, Chukwudi. It's very great having you on News People Review every morning.
Thank you.
Alright, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, we shall get on to our discussion for today. Please stay with us.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a Wi-Fi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by Airtel, the smartphone of your Nigeria, African beauty on the Gulf of Guinea, blessed with natural landmarks and wildlife reserves. Nigeria, largest economy in Africa. Nigeria, famous accomplishment in entertainment and sports. Nigeria, resourced with globally respected human capital. Our uniqueness lies in our tenacity. Our acumen, a testament of success. At NTA, we are forever proud to be the showcase channel of this positive energy and the reflection of the good in our nation. The capacity to tell our nation's story would not have been possible without the support and patronage of the three arms of government: ministries, departments, agencies, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties, and of course you, our esteemed viewers. As we wish you a prosperous new year, let's get set to make 2023 even greater together.
Operation Wild Punch covers Kaduna and Niger State. The operation was recently reorganized to also cover the critical Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, which had a defunct standby alone operation, codenamed Operation Thunder Strike. Additionally, as part of the Operation Wild Punch, a subsidiary operation codenamed Operation Forest Sanity has also been launched to flush out the terrorists from the forest that straddle Kaduna and Niger states. These efforts were geared towards flushing out criminal elements from the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway and its environment. I am pleased to inform that Kaduna Expressway has been secured through a combined efforts of the armed forces, the police, and other security agencies.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Our country want better. Our country want better. Who go do one for us? Mama talk and move. Mama talk and move for a better Nigeria. Life now you want to. Now you we need.
Yes, so people of Nigeria, they jolly for the better one shele for the country. So we need to put Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as the next president of Nigeria. Our people don't look the matter well. Say that only Bola Tinubu don't
do wetin everybody fit see. Na you get the experience wey you go fit use take make our country better, make life sweet for we and our pikin dem. Bola Tinubu don gather better plan to chase down work for we youth, better school, the security of lives and property, unity and peace for all the country people of Nigeria. But these and many other better things wey im don vocalize, e good make we all vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC, the party wey show groom. Na you be the
Staying right on Good Morning Nigeria is a good way to begin your day as we take time to enlighten you on burning national issues. Now, to begin our discussion on the subject matter for today, let's take this report put together by our correspondent Abdulsalam Jubril.
In some countries around the world, there are emergency services that provide urgent pre-hospital treatment, stabilization for serious illness and injuries, as well as transport to definitive care. The sights of fast-moving ambulances, blaring sirens, ferrying the injured or the sick to medical centers and hospitals is a common sight. In Nigeria, such is being replicated towards reducing the number of deaths caused by the delay in access to healthcare services with the National Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System. Recall that the scheme was launched in February 2022 and its pilot phase kick-started in the Federal Capital Territory in October last year. On Good Morning Nigeria some time ago, the Minister of Health, Osage Ehanire, along with other guests, highlighted certain challenges while maintaining that the scheme is still a work in progress.
There has not been a coordinated service of this type before in our country, and it requires a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, a lot of assets, and putting together the methodology and the processes. First to realize the concept, and then to manage the claims that are going to arise.
Thanks for the leadership of the Honorable Minister of Health, who often calls us to ensure that we are on track. We have to look at the critical issues that must be in place for such a program to be formally launched.
There's a very key coordination with technology. So you're looking at using the card, which is a computer-aided dispatch system, where a call comes in, the computer tells the ambulance where to go. And the ambulance drivers, remember now, it is no longer the concept, only the concept of the nearest hospital. It's the nearest appropriate center.
They are wonderful. They are doing a very nice work. What I'm going to say was, things are always Lens are super very cool. Like, I thank you people for one of it. Like, thumbs up for you people.
It has been almost a year since its launch. How has the scheme performed so far? How soon will it be visible nationwide? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be giving an update on the National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System shortly.
Thank you, Abdulsalam, for the background report. Now, joining us in the studio here in Abuja to discuss our topic is the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Also here is Dr. Abubakar Tafido, Secretary FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, thank you.
And we also have Dr. Saidu Ahmed Dumbuwa, the National Program Manager, National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System, NEPSIS. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, yes, it's good indeed to have you again on this platform. And of course, the excerpts we watched was a program we had here on the 22nd of September this year, which means is a bit fresh. So we're going to refresh our memories on what went on in that program. September last year, rather. Yes, last year, really. Now, but before we delve into the intricacies of National Emergency Services and Ambulance System, let's get an update on this NEMSAS, that has been initiated by this administration, and know how far it's been for us to understand much more activities of your ministry with respect to establishing a sustainable EMS and ambulance system in Nigeria.
Well, thank you. This is a scheme that the time has come, and we have had a lot of preparation to make. It is new in the way it is being organized. The key is that there is no cost to the user at point of care. That's very important. And secondly, both private and public sector ambulances and hospitals are participating. So it is computer aided, that has been said just now, for dispatching and also monitoring the movement of the ambulance to point of care, and then payment will be made to the provider. So those features are already on ground, and the tests we have done so far, I received a report that over 200 cases have already been assisted in this way, and it is a system that offers help not only to accidents, but to pediatric emergencies, obstetric emergencies, and so on. So we are learning lessons from it, and we are also preparing to launch in 4 other states by the end of this month.
Thank you, Dr. Sagi. I quickly want to find out from the program manager, Dr. Saidu Ahmed. For someone, I'm very sure there are people who are just hearing of NEMSES for the first time today on this program. I would like you to tell us what exactly is the program about, and who are those that stand to benefit from it?
Thank you very much for this very important question, and it's very apt at this material time when the government is trying to actually forge ahead to see how they're going to save the lives of the poor and the vulnerable Nigerians, which is very key. As the Home Minister rightly said, it's a system whereby a person, where there's an incident, a person will call 112 and an ambulance will be dispatched, and that ambulance will go to a nearby appropriate healthcare facility, and on arrival that ambulance will arrive with a form, a NEMSES form in it, because that ambulance is already accredited and paneled in our own database, and we are tracking it. On arrival, they will receive that patient along with the form of that ambulances that show that this patient is a NEMSES patient, and that emergency medical treatment center will receive that patient for the first 48 hours. That person will be treated at no cost, and thereafter we reimburse for the services actually be rendered to him, for the ambulance service providers and for the emergency medical treatment center. That is actually there. At the moment, as the Home Minister has rightly said, we have received several calls and we have responded. Ambulances are there, and it's a more of a government-owned program, but driven by the private sector. So far, the joy of it is that you see practically saving lives. You understand? And you look at it from the other perspective also, it can be seen as one of the truest compendium of the political economy. Why do I say that? Because it's going to save lives. One is going to unlock the private health sector potential by stimulating the economy, you understand, and also create jobs. So if you look at it from that perspective, you understand, different perspectives, so to say, it's a kind of the thing that is needed. Already missing in the sector. For the last 3 or 4 decades, the Nigerian government has been actually investing vertical and horizontal, trying to improve the healthcare system, change the narrative of the dismal indices of the morbidity and mortality. But at the point in time, we reach a stage whereby it is no more improving. Until the recent government come under the leadership of the Home Minister, realize there is a need to address this missing link. And what is this missing link? That is the National Emergency Medical Service Ambulance System. It is only when we can provide this transport system to a patient who cannot afford. Just imagine somebody in Nanya or Karu, you understand, there's an obstetric emergency, a pregnant woman is going to deliver, you understand, and it's just a person with downtrodden, poor person who cannot afford. Just calling 112, an ambulance will be dispatched, will go and pick the patient, a pregnant woman who is not even on any child. And on arrival, that person will be received and will be treated. Be it a sterilization, be it whatever, that person will be treated, and the NEMSES will actually pay for that.
You didn't tell us those that will benefit. Is it that I must be a civil servant or...
No, not at all. It's all for Nigerians. And the money is all for Nigerians, so to say, you understand. However, a strategy will be put in place is meant to save the lives of all Nigerians at a point of care. Yeah. At a point of care, everybody will actually be treated.
Oh, that's interesting. The planning is superb. But when it comes to implementation, we need to feel the impact of it. But I believe you, quite frankly, that of course of treated 200 cases and all that, and I hope that it's going to be cascaded down to the local level. And of course, ensure the participation of the subnational administration, even the local government administration. That will be possible for now, so that we can get to hear from the Secretary, FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat. Of course, from your designation, you're in charge of supervising many hospitals in FCT, and of course EMS and the ambulance service cannot operate properly without of course engaging hospitals in Abuja. How has it been since this scheme was put in place?
Well, how has it been? Thanks to the two principals, the Honorable Minister of Health here and our own Minister of the FCT, that have been pushing the program. I would say it's been one of the fastest developing programs so far within the health sector. Now, let me say this, just to add to what Dr. Said said, the issue is you are looking at certain aspects, providing care to the person at point of incident, and then transporting that person or patient to a care center, and what will be done there. At the care center, the need for us to stabilize that patient, manage appropriately if the center is capable of that, or quickly transfer to the next large center where full management will be provided for that patient. And this care is for everybody, at least within the first 48 hours. So the critical issue with this emergency medical transport system is aligned to all the activities within the health sector. There is no way you can reduce maternal or child mortality or morbidity without integrating emergency medical transport system, as well as other, of course, the road traffic accident emergencies are already well integrated within the system. And from the runs we've had and the piloting, it gives a chunk of the cases that we've been able to receive. But coming back to the FCT, as the national guinea pig, if I may say that, we have already established the governance structure, just as it is at the national level. We have an emergency transport committee, we have the ambulance service provision unit, headed by a coordinator, just as Dr. Said is coordinating the national program. We have a team, and we developed an emergency operation center specifically for this program. We'll be sharing with other emergency sectors in the FCT, but I believe we have a very good and standardized operational center.
Let me just chip in this before you continue. The ambulance service, is it extended to hospitals in Abuja? If an ambulance takes someone to a hospital in Abuja, private or public hospital, will they respond to that?
Absolutely. I was coming to that, but let me give you an answer to that. The beauty of this is that it engaged both the public and the private sector. Currently, we have about 15 operators from the private sector alone that are working within the emergency medical transport system. So, and if you look at the hospitals, all our public hospitals are part of the system. All the public tertiary institutions are also part of the system, and including these private hospitals that come in three aspects. Some are accredited for just the transportation, that is providing the ambulance service. Some are accredited as emergency treatment centers. So they stabilize and then transfer the patient appropriately to the definitive center of management. And some of them are both involved in the transportation, in the treatment, and the definitive management. So like what we are saying is, the essence is for us to ensure equity, to really broaden the universal health coverage that everybody should have access. And if you look at the indices we have in the country, this particular program will really address most of the delays we encounter between the point of incident to the treatment. Mostly we have been thinking about road traffic accident, but the little one we had, like the one we had in October, we realized that domestic accidents, other chronic inpatients that will suddenly collapse or go into emergency care also constitute a chunk of what we have seen as emergencies. So it's no issue of road traffic accident, but it's an issue of anybody in need of an emergency medical care is catered for. And I must confess that the Honorable Minister has been up and doing, pushing. And thankfully, FCT being the core where everybody is quite a challenge to integrate everybody to work. But we are now hoping to see quite a number of other states coming on board so that we begin to share experiences, learn lessons, and then move forward.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tafida, for that explanation. I think, for someone who's just sharing of NEMSIS for the first time, at least they have a clear picture of what this is about. What has been mentioned so far is the fact that once a patient is picked up, the first 48 hours of treatment, the person is not charged. It's free of charge, Honorable Minister. So who pays for, who bears the cost?
Well, I will answer that by first of all referring to an earlier question you asked. Who is eligible? Eligible is any person who feels their life is in danger from illness or from accident or from anything at all, and you want help immediately. And maybe you do not have transport to go to the hospital, or for some reason the transportation is delicate. So you call 112 and then you receive first aid, and then you are taken to a hospital. There is a provision in the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund that leaves 5% for emergency medical service. That is seed money that is used for this program. And to optimize it, we are going to be asking for additional funding from private sector, from many other areas, and we are very sure that, and also from transporters, public transporters, they are already asking questions if they can join the scheme because they carry a lot of people, and they are part of the insurance they want is that they can be attended to if they have an accident. So it is from that fund that the payment is made to those who provide the service. We inspect the ambulances that are coming in and accredit them that meet the standard. We also inspect the hospitals that are participating, both private and public, that they have an emergency center to receive patients and accredit them. So that's where the patients go to for definitive treatment, and then the payment is made through the National Health Insurance Agency. So there's a connection to the NHIA, which has a database of hospitals, and we now get a database of accredited ambulances, and then they will do the payments upon advice from the NEMSAS.
Okay, so let me stay with you. Let's look at ambulance services, even globally. I think this is the NTA Foundation of Pakistan, which was on Guinness Book of Records. The operators of the largest ambulance services globally. I don't know whether it's still subsists, but then I know that that foundation was formed in 1951. I don't know whether it's still there, but what I'm trying to say is that whether we have tried to look at what exists in other climes in terms of operationalization of ambulance service, because to some persons it's entirely new here in Nigeria with the kind of concept that we have now, because it's going to be holistic from what we're saying. And let's talk about population of FCT, for instance, to be able to determine what number of ambulances could be suitable for a given population. And of course, looking at the way we live in Abuja, for instance, we have so many estates springing up here and there. We also have outskirts of Abuja, Nyanya, Maraba, and the other side. All right. So, are you considering population of a city or a community, before you begin to think of the number of ambulances, that could serve the purpose you're talking about?
Yes, you are correct in that we need to be able to offer service in time. You see, there are three main killers for people who have emergency problem. Whether it's an accident or problem with delivery or an illness or stroke or whatever, the three killers are one, they are called the 3 Ds. One, delay in deciding to go to hospital. Number 2 is delay in getting transportation to get to hospital. And the third one is delay in the onset of treatment, even after you get to the hospital. Because many hospitals will ask you to make a down payment, and they will not start until you have paid. So that delay will be eliminated. With 112, the delay in transportation will be eliminated. And for those who understand the system, even decision making is something the emergency crew can help you make. If it is not something that's an emergency that needs to go to the hospital immediately, you will be informed. So the program, it works in a way of identifying hospitals in strategic areas with ambulances, and then we go into an arrangement with them to list them into the scheme, and then sign an MOU. We did an MOU the other day, and for areas where there is absolutely no ambulance, where there is a large gap, we intend to provide an ambulance or use a private hospital in that location, or use a primary health care. But we are looking for even distribution of the capacities everywhere to take care of the service. And then, as I was saying just now, the national coordinator is a computer-aided system that is used that allows you to track the ambulance. First of all, you find the nearest ambulance to where the problem is, and give the order for the ambulance to move, and then you can track the movement and then advise. In the meantime, you find out which is the nearest definitive treatment center, and then the driver will be advised where to take the patient to by radio. So this is going to be very modern and very sophisticated, and it will save time and reducing all the delays. And by the time it's working well, it will be a game changer for maternal mortality, and a game changer for child mortality and for accident mortality, because you can get patients earlier to treatment, removing all the delays.
All right. Honorable Minister, many thanks. From what you just said, by the time it's working well, which means it's not working very well at the moment, and I would like the program manager to please let us know what exactly the challenges have been, since you started this program. Of course, for every program, there will be hitches, and then there will be challenges that you need to surmount to be able to get to.
I can tell you right away that one of the first problem is awareness. When people don't know that it exists. Second one is that there are people who don't think that such a thing will work in the country. So there are some crank calls, people who just make a call just to find out who it is.
Okay, so you tell us more challenges that you have experienced.
Basically, we receive prank and crank calls just people are trying to find, is it really true? I can recall that when we're having a meeting with the WHO, we make a presentation to them, some of the partners. So we'll make a presentation to them and say, this is how it works, this is operation flow, and other things. So they decide, one of the partners, just call 112. So if they realized, they answer him, is there the emergency? What can we do for you? You understand? So immediately off it. You understand? Kind of a cranky way of actually confirming whether what I was presenting is true. You understand? So after that,
I almost did the same thing yesterday, by the way. But when I realized that it was health and emergency, I just said, well, I wanted to be sure that the number was actually going through.
I'm telling you now, if you can call it right away now, an ambulance will be dispatched and come and pick a patient here. You understand? It's really for real. You understand? But it's just like a toddler. When a toddler is growing, at times when you step, you can actually fall a little, and so it's a new thing. So it's a new thing. Certainly, it will come with some small challenges. Anything that is coming with a challenge, then certainly is not a good thing. You understand? You expect it just like a pregnant woman when the baby is kicking, you'll be anticipating whether you're going to deliver this baby fine, deliver it at time. Is it the presentation is good or is not good? That's the novelty when a pregnant woman is actually, nursing its own baby in vitro.
Yes, the challenges you have mentioned so far is on the part of the people who are supposed to benefit from this program. What about the whole process itself? The emergency ambulances, are they always properly stationed as at the time a call is received? The customer care or whatever it is that you call them, are they always at their desk? Because sometimes you call customer care of different organizations and then you stay on the line for 15 minutes before they pick the call. They put you on one computer service and they are singing and all of that. So is that what applies in this process? Then also tell us, the hospitals too, how receptive are they to patients that are coming through this program?
Well, first of all, we must appreciate the NCC for actually being, because they are responsible for managing the calls. Nigerian Communication Commission. You understand? Okay. We must appreciate them for actually making sure that the 112 is actually working, because they are responsible for first to receive the call before they route the actual calls to the FCT call center.
It's immediate. Yes. It doesn't have to.
It's computer. You understand? So at the beginning, one of the challenges that you said, that some of the challenges we discovered that have a little challenges, because we anticipated by the time we commence there will be increased influx of calls, be it prank or the real or test or whatever. You understand? So the Honorable Minister felt that there's a need to upgrade the call center to have multiple
computer-aided dispatch will be to ensure that if in case there are multiple calls, simultaneously will be received and will actually be dispatched. And we're able to deploy more staff, you understand, together with the FCT administration to ensure that the shifts, we have adequate staff, at the call center, agents to receive calls.
Even at night?
Yes, at night. Even yesterday, as part of my routine, every day in the morning I go there, at night I go there to make sure everything is actually going on well, going on fine, there's no problem, you understand. I may actually challenge you to call the 112 anytime you want and get back to me, whether 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and get back to me whether actually ambulance is dispatched to you. And the second thing is the issue of the response time. That's what we're trying to actually put in place. We have the public and the private ambulances that, how the homeless are actually said, are strategically located. Like we've signed MOU for safety. We have the ambulances called Zebra. They are strategically located. You understand? And now the average response within 15 minutes, if you call 112 and you start discussing with the agent at the call center, for the next 15 minutes, I assure you an ambulance will be the door side of your house to actually pick the patient. Okay. All right. Now, gentlemen, our viewers are beginning to have a better understanding of what we're discussing. And the minister rightly, said it that awareness is needed in this direction so that people will understand you. The concept. No, you don't blame Nigerians. These are things that we ought to have had over several years ago. I just mentioned Pakistan. What is Pakistan in terms of development? Wherever they are, but I have the largest operators of EMS and ambulance globally, right, and so on. Now, EMS has two levels, if I understand that properly. There's advanced life support (ALS), and of course, basic life support (BLS). Yeah. Which one are you preferring for Nigeria? Are you doing the two levels? Yeah, of course. We have basically the basic life support and the advanced life support ambulance too. And also even their tariff differs. The money we are going to actually invoice you using the BLS, you understand, basic life support and advanced life support, it actually varies, you understand, because of the sophistication of the data that is there. And also there is medical indication for us to dispatch an advanced life support and also basic life support. And all these ambulances were available. May I also try to highlight, as I told you earlier, we signed MOU with the Federal Road Safety. The federal government actually approved the procurement of the advanced life support ambulance as part of the effort to augment the national program in all the states across the country, 37, and already some of the ambulances have actually arrived for the advanced life support. For the basic life support, most of our private hospitals, they do have the basic life support ambulances, and they've actually accredited, we have accredited the ambulances, and we're using the ambulances at the moment.
All right, Dr. Saidu, I'll come to you now, because you are Dr. Tafida, rather, Secretary FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat. The FCT is the pilot phase, for this program. So is this just with the FCT for now? Since
now, yes, later in the month we are starting with 4 new states.
Okay, so but the FCT, I'd like you to tell us your experience so far, and how many local governments, is that what it's local council
area councils,
area councils has been covered, or is it just for a specific local or the central area?
Yeah, you raised the same question the last time we were here, but the point is, as the guinea pig, I think we have to understand, even before you assign a hospital or a service provider as somebody to participate in the emergency ambulance and transport system, they have to go through a rigorous process of screening. So the provider as an ambulance will be accredited. There are guidelines for the hospitals that are participating as emergency treatment centers to be accredited. So for all our 14 main hospitals, we are accredited. And for each, there is an ambulance with 3 drivers and 6 emergency care nurses.
These 14 hospitals are located in different countries.
From Abuja down to Buhari.
Okay.
So we are talking about Buhari, Zuba, Asokoro, Maitama, Garki, Kwali, and so on, in addition to the tertiary institutions. And during the dry runs, the processes we tried, we also observed some of these delays
the fastest take was around 3 minutes, and the longest I think was 33 minutes. And we looked at the possible causes in the delay of this. And at that time, I'm sorry to say, we don't have the computer-assisted dispatch system. Now we have, and it's getting closer and closer. Like he's saying, the approximate time now is around 15 minutes. So if you look at
15 minutes from when the call is made to when the person
gets to the treatment center.
Okay.
Exactly. I remember, like I said, you have experienced nurses attached to the ambulance that will provide service at that particular point where the patient is. And then once stabilized, is now taken to the nearest accredited emergency treatment center. They will take an assessment, further stabilize, and decide whether they are capable of managing that case, or that case has to be moved elsewhere. So the whole issue of the emergency transport system is the part of the basic healthcare provision fund the Honorable Minister was referring, which also looks at the primary healthcare system and the National Health Insurance Agency, where also the vulnerable and indigent persons are being taken care of through the NHIS. So it's an overall program with just 5% as an initial seed meant for the emergency transport system. So the FCT, as the pilot state, I think has done fairly well in terms of how we put in the governance structure, how we were able to get all the facilities accredited. Except for Zuba, I think all of our facilities have enough ambulances and the management team to be able to serve within the emergency medical and ambulance system. And in addition to that, some of the challenges I believe Dr. Said might not have noticed is trying to integrate everybody, especially within the FCT. Everybody is here. You talk of the road safety, you talk of NOMA, you talk of lots of private hospitals and so on. So it's a Herculean task coordinating and integrating all these providers. But we've been doing well. And another particular issue is the issue of all these forms. We would hope to see that they are all computerized, because they need to fill in the incident form, they need to fill in the treatment form, the reimbursement form request, and so on and so forth. So I think that is causing some delays within the system. But once we have a computerized system, this can be done within a few days. And everything is centralized within the National Emergency Medical Transport Committee, which will verify and then send for disbursement. I think this is, to some extent, is delaying some willing participants to come on board. Now, talking about the number of ambulances, we were actually, based on estimation, thinking of 200 or thereabout ambulances participating within the FCT. Remember, we are not talking about accident. We are talking about obstetric care, emergencies, chronic non-communicable diseases, emergencies, and so on. So it will take time. I always say that the NHIS, which formally was launched in 2005, the concept was actually mooted and developed way back in 1950-something. So I believe we praise the Honorable Minister for driving this within the year. The FCT is capable of continuing, and we are adding 4 in the next 1 month, probably 18 more before the government finally
exits. What is you talk about numbers now? You said 200. It's not 200 is going to be enough. But it's not by estimation. By estimation. And for you, it's underestimation.
Yes.
Because I was reading something somewhere. I get that in New York alone, there were over 500 ambulances. As a matter of fact, the municipals, not like the Kwali you are talking about in New York, they have over 104. The municipals, not like Kwali, Abuja, I told like their own is about 104. And New York State government, as a New York, has just 1 ambulance, and then the federal government of the US in New York has 10, right? And while the fire department has over 500 in New York alone. So I'm happy you raised this, because I really put that question to other ministers some time ago to say Are you looking at population of people? Are you looking at the topography or geographical location of people and how to coordinate all that? But the Honorable Minister,
I think the coordination, the coordination and the technology will solve all these issues we are talking. The government may just be there. We will coordinate, like Dr. Said said. Once you call 112, somebody will pick it. There is so in so place. They will look at it. They will now identify the closest emergency treatment center, and the ambulance will be discharged. The person will be stabilized and taken to the hospital. We are going there.
Okay. Honorable Minister, there are functional types of ambulances or ambulance services, if you like. We have the road-going vans, which is the one we're talking about now. Road-going vans. We have boats. You know, we have helicopters, we have fixed wing aircraft, the one we call air ambulance and all of that. But I think we have to start from a point. Now, I'm more concerned about boats and helicopters, you know, because people are living in the coastal areas. Yes. They also have to be captured, you know, in it and all that. So, are you thinking in expanding the horizon, you know, of this project?
Oh yes, we have an emergency treatment committee that includes the private sector and the public sector and a large number of agencies, including NEMA, and the police and fire services, and where all the assets are known and where at the time they are required they'll be brought up. There are riverine areas here where actually the road ambulance is not much of more use, so you need boat ambulances. We have that in our horizon, in our view. We have that in view. And also the accreditation of working with ambulance operators, air ambulance operators. I think NEMA has an aircraft.
Okay.
Yes, and then helicopters. We shall be talking to the Air Force also. And when it comes to that, but those ones are further down the road. We want to settle down with land ambulances first and get the system working well. But we have other forms of transport in view. For the ambulance, for the helicopter or aircraft, that's to move a patient over longer distance. So it's not for routine use. So if a patient has, for example, a severe head injury, which can be treated, let us say, in a hospital in Lagos, you'll be flown over there to Lagos, or can be flown over to Sokoto, where we have a department of neurosurgery. So that's where the aircraft comes in. But for routine use, the land ambulance is enough. For riverine areas, boats, yes, we have that all in view.
What about the converted vehicles?
Converted
vehicles. Actually, the private sector wants to key into the project to say, look, I have vehicles that could be converted into ambulances.
Well, sure, but what we have is that we accredit ambulances because the ambulance will be paid for the service. So they have to meet a certain minimum standards and there are guidelines that are set there before an ambulance can be accepted into the scheme. The same for the hospital. So you don't just go to any random hospital. You go to a hospital that's accredited in your scheme, with whom you have a contract, you have an understanding, and they are waiting for you. And you have also assured yourself that they have the capacity to receive patients and take care of the emergency.
Their ambulances have basic patient care features.
Yes, they have. Dr. Seidu can give you the features. There are conditions that you meet in order to have that particular service. And right now, when we're doing all this planning, one of the things we already had in mind was making sure that every ambulance has an oxygen cylinder, because at the time COVID was at its peak, and a lot of people who were really down with severe COVID will be breathless. So there is also a provision to make sure that the ambulance operators at that time will be well kitted. They will have kits to dress up if they are going to handle a case that is believed or suspected to be infectious. So all those provisions are there.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister.
In that respect, Honorable Minister, now with some states coming on board, the typical example of using non-conventional ambulances, for example, may fit into some communities. Imagine a pregnant woman going into a level in a hard-to-reach community. We piloted this in my state before in Jigawa, where if there is a bus there or any form of transportation, the driver will be integrated as part of the transport system, and he is obliged to transport that particular patient right to the nearest facility where care can be given. And so in those days, we give them incentives. But now with this monetary system, I believe some incentives financially will go a long way in reducing the delay in transporting, covering the distance between point A to where better care will be given. So I believe the book that was prepared, the Honorable Minister was talking about, has captured all the processes of the transport that we are talking, including riverine areas and so on and so forth. And it's all covered in the guidelines.
And the rural ambulance services also. Yes. It involves KK ambulance in the ruralized part of our country, whereby an ambulance, normal ambulance cannot get there, then the KK ambulance will have to go there.
It's a good business to go into by the private sector.
Yeah, that's what it says. You know, it's one of the clearest compendium of this administration's political economy, because it's going to unlock the private health sector potential, stimulate the economy, create jobs, and save lives.
All right, thank you, Dr. Seidu. I would stay with you. You know, I asked you earlier about the challenges of this program, and I would like to find out, so what about language when somebody is calling 112? You know, I'm thinking that, you know, there are people, is it just in English? Because you know, there are people who they call and, you know, they're speaking a particular dialect. How do you go?
Yes, thank you very much for this question. Way back a few weeks ago, you understand, we usually have a kind of weekly meeting to discuss some of these things. So we felt there's a need to bring people who speak Hausa, Bagi, Pidgin, and English among the agents at the call center. You understand? So we're able to deploy some of our staff from other places that can speak Hausa very well friendly. Some speak Pidgin and Bagi. You understand? They're also agents, you understand, at the call center. So if you call, you understand, when the call is dropped from the NCC to the FCT call center, somebody will be there to receive, whether in Hausa or Pidgin or Bagi or English. This is what we have at the moment now.
Okay. In the FCT, of course, when you move to other states,
by next week we'll be going to Kano, Anambra, Ogun, you understand, and also we'll be going with one of Dr. Juma, who is heading the FCT call center, very committed person, and she's going to actually be teaching them on the management of the call center, and also how to actually bring the concept of actually bringing many agents with different languages to see how they're going to coordinate the center.
All right, gentlemen, is quite explanatory, you know, all your dispositions this morning, or your postulations rather. But I want us to go further to interrogate the participation of state government in this. I know you're going to launch the next project in 4 states of the state. But you know what worries me, and perhaps many Nigerians, is the fact that it's so difficult, you know, for state governments to key into federal government policies, especially in some concurrent sectors or concurrent, items. Now, how do you involve the state governments, not just by having meetings or conferences with governors or commissioners of health in different states of the country, but are they going to participate financially and otherwise, logistically, personnel-wise, and what have you? Because they know their terrain better than you at the federal level. Yeah. So, what is the nexus between what you're doing and what state ministries of health?
Yeah, thank you very much for this, another very important question. Honestly, some states, they are ready like yesterday to actually start these things. And when we realized at the moment we have about 16 states that have indicated express interest, to understand. Then we went there further to actually see, okay, who are the people who are really ready? They have the 112 is working, they have this in place, all the criteria, you understand. We're able to have 4 that are actually ready for that next phase of that, of the pilot. So most of these states that were actually we selected for the next phase of the pilot, they're very committed. Let me take an example for Yobe State. Yobe State already have procured their ambulances. In fact, the governor last week has assented the bill to establish state emergency medical services and ambulances in their own states. They procured their own ambulances. They recruited their own staff. They have actually branded the ambulances, branded the KK ambulances. They have their offices. They have everything in place. And for what they want is just for us to come actually for the Prime Minister to visit the state and actually roll out. You see. And also, if you go to Anambra State also, because we are in Anambra State, 70% of the private sector is managed by the private sector. There they are eager because it's more of economy, you understand, more of business-driven oriented kind of a thing that is coming, you understand. So they are eager for us to go there to roll out because there's going to be money. Money is going to be paid for ambulance, fee for service. Ambulance is being dispatched, you go and actually give the service and then come back and we'll reimburse you for the services actually being given to the patient, you understand. So these four states, they are very committed, you understand, and they are eager to see how they are going to actually roll out in the view to save the lives of their own poor and the vulnerable in their own states.
All right, so Honorable Minister, I'll come to you. We know that in Nigeria, when someone is rushed to a hospital needing emergency care, sometimes the hospital management would require that you produce or you present a police report. In some cases, it depends on the victim and the kind of injury and all of that, bullet wounds and all that. In this particular case, would that be required?
No, I don't think so. Certainly not. In fact, there is a law that was passed the other day that people with emergencies, although they mentioned gunshot wounds, but I think it should apply to all injuries and all cases should be given treatment. Your life before anything else. But with the functioning of the emergency medical service that is beginning now, there is a contractual agreement between NEMSAS and the receiving hospital. So once it comes in from NEMSAS, there is no question asked. Otherwise, it will be a breach of contract. So they are to give treatment immediately, record what they have done because they will be reimbursed.
Okay. The case of pregnant women, I'd like to ask, because you said that women who are pregnant, who are in labor and all of that can also be attended to. You're a doctor, you know better than me. You know that for certain cases, a medical history of the patient is very important in how or in the way the particular patient is treated or handled. I'm just saying, say for example, a woman who has had multiple cesarean sections and is somehow falls into labor somehow, and you are rushed to a hospital because it's NEMSAS, they're trying to attend to the person, but they don't have the history of the person. So with this, will it actually help, or would there be some kind of complications for people who have medical history that need to be looked at before they are attended to? I'm just thinking.
It's good that you are bringing up that topic because it's peculiar in its own way. Because it links up to primary health care, up to skilled birth attendants. The government is at the moment putting a lot of emphasis on renovating and revitalizing primary health care centers so that more women can have skilled birth attendants when they are delivering. That means that they must have had antenatal clinic, attended antenatal clinic at least 3 times or 4 times. And if they're delivering, and this is again the other side of the ambulance service that we have already prepared, what we call the Rural Ambulance Service, RAS, is a part of this concept. But it's a tricycle-based ambulance based in a primary healthcare center that in the antenatal visit already gives its number to the mother-to-be and says, when you're going to deliver, call this number. So the rural-based ambulance, the little tricycle ambulance, can go to any nook and corner in the community and bring the patients at odd hours to the hospital or rather to the primary health care center for routine delivery. Those are routine deliveries. So the routine deliveries at odd hours where people cannot find transport can be supported with the rural ambulance service. Now, when there's a complication, if for example there's massive bleeding after delivery, or there's obstructed labor, the child cannot come out, or there's eclampsia or some other kind of threat to the life of the mother, then you need something different. And that's where you need the NEMSAS. So we call the NEMSAS, and they already know that there's a complication, that there's a delivery. This call could also come from home, because if the mother-to-be didn't get to the primary health care center, they will call from their home. So the first aid will be rendered, patient will be taken and sent, and then before they get to the hospital that's going to handle it, the hospital is already informed that this is a mother-to-be with obstructed labor or heavy bleeding, and they start preparing even before the patient arrives there. Now, this is the way we are going to save lives. Nigeria has among the highest maternal mortality rates in the world, 512 per 100,000 live births. That's really high. It's not something that it's very embarrassing. So we believe that this service will reduce that, as well as the primary healthcare service, because many of these deaths take place in rural areas where there is no service at all. So building up the primary healthcare center, bringing in the emergency medical service, including the rural ambulance service, we change the game, and that is where we should put our effort to reduce maternal and infant mortality.
Yeah, actually, the question by my colleague is very apt, because in emergency situations, it's always chaotic, a little bit chaotic. I mean, if you need to see emergency situation, where somebody is being pulled out from an ambulance, where the rushes are rushing, everybody's sometimes mistakes are made, and what have you. You need people who are collected, to handle such situations. So what she's talking about is very apt, because you could just make a mistake, or trying to administer or save life. You may end up taking the life as well. So that's important. Well, I always try to draw inference, from what has existed elsewhere and what is working elsewhere. That was why I was trying to say where did you get the model that you are putting in place, in Nigeria now? Because of course you know that Japan has the best highly technological ambulance system in the world. That is not arguable, and I want to believe that all those people that are making progress in terms of what they're doing, we could also borrow a leaf from the system, what they're doing, because technology is going to play a big role here, as Secretary rightly pointed out earlier on. Now, will you encourage kind of emergency medical services organizations in Nigeria? Will it boost what we're doing in any way?
I don't.
Yes, you.
When you talk of an organization, I think we are talking of an already established program, national program with protocols, and each state, like what we are saying, each state takes ownership of that particular program. The national program provides us with coordination, policy, direction, and so on, and then ascertain and verify the processes of the payment. Now, if you know that, it means the 36 states, once established, will run and manage its own emergency transport program, and then the national program will be there to give directions, guidelines, and then ensure that the disbursements are done properly. Now, when I started earlier talking about the basic healthcare provision fund, so you are aware, it's a three-pronged approach. You have the primary healthcare fund, which is 45% of the total fund, and that is specifically targeted at strengthening the primary healthcare system. Like in the FCT, we have 62 primary health centers selected for the basic healthcare provision fund, and these are upgraded in terms of the human resource, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the equipment and quality of care, and it's being managed collectively by the communities. So when you talk of a pregnant woman, normally she goes for an antenatal care, and if there are any risks, they would have identified those risks. Where they needed to do some emergency care, you hear that they are offered some form of intervention. And out of 100 pregnant women, I think estimated 80 or so percent will come with one problem or the other. And I think, like in my state then, only 9% of them actually ended up having a cesarean section. So if you have the data and you are able to have a primary health center around the people that are capable of identifying these risk factors that will affect the life or the health of the mother and the baby, those ones are easily picked, and they are booked as high-risk pregnancies that could be taken care of. It's only in the rare instances where some emergencies really do occur. Like Honorable Minister is talking about bleeding, we have abrasio, placenta and so on, that will cause real serious bleeding. That is where the MEMSAS or the EMSAS will fit in. Quickly being called, identifying the issue, providing care, and quickly lifting that patient to the best center where both the life of the baby and the mother will be saved. I think this is the key issue. The other component of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, which is part of the National Health Insurance Scheme system, also look at the vulnerable and indigent people within the communities. These are managed at the primary healthcare centers. I'm trying to give you that it's an all-encompassing program. The MSAS is just a component of that. So the system is gradually addressing those issues that are causing the high mortality. And at the same time, the MSAS, which is integral part of dealing with the emergency, is fitting into the system.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor. At this point, we'll take a break. When we come back, we shall continue the conversation. Please stay with us.
The security situation in Nigeria has been reasonably stable in spite of activities of unpatriotic elements engaged in various criminal activities around the country. Daily situation reports coming in from states. 2 months ago, it has shown relative peace on many of our highways, such as Abuja, Kaduna, Birnin Gwari, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country. Adoka Koriga Kasata, Nigeria.
To be faithful, loyal, and honest.
To serve Nigeria with all my strength.
Nigeria should concentrate more on things that can bring us together. Unite us instead of separating us at this trial time. We actually have culture, we have heritage, we have a whole lot, and it's going to promote unity in diversity. When a country is not safe, when there's no unity, when there's no peace, nothing will really move.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, it all old, make it do die, make everybody for rest, to ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles, and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties, and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
positive bit of play here for Brighton, and straight away
took advantage. Nunez, Liverpool back on level terms.
Brilliantly done. Fantastic finish by Adam Lallana.
Salah in 2-0. Tottenham, architects of their own downfall. A dire mistake in every sense.
Sportybet sponsors coverage of the English Premier League.
Alright, welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA, and of course the topic of discussion today is update on the National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System. We still have our guest with us, and I'll just quickly go to the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanuri, now, because while we were talking before the break, you talked about 4 states joining the scheme this month. I'd like you to tell us the states. I think you mentioned Kano, the other 3 states, and then how far you have gone as regards getting the system operational. Then another question will be the highways, because from all we have said so far, the pilot phase is just FCT, the local council areas that have been captured and all of that, but we know that our highways need this service when there's an accident, and then you have emergency cases most of the time. So, I mean, is there a plan to capture the major highways for now, just so that if there are emergency cases around that route, you can attend to them and also take them to a nearby hospital?
Yes, I'll start with that one. The highways are the most predictable, and the highways are also where we have a very reliable partner in the Federal Road Safety Corps. So they have been working very closely with us, and they are largely going to be handling the highways where they are very familiar, and they have a good fleet of ambulances, and many of them are already prepped for this service, and they are already working with us in that respect. So the highways are generally taken care of. Now
across the country?
Yes, across the country, yes, and because they have stations everywhere, and they are very well resourced with ambulances and drivers. So what we are doing is training the paramedics for them, or helping them with training that they require for that service delivery, and linking them up with the urgent care centers we have, and also the definitive care centers.
Okay.
The other states that are going to start the pilot will be, he has mentioned Kano, there's Yobe, there's Anambra, and there is Ogun. Those four are ready. And to come back to the question I asked earlier, there are states that are really very enthusiastic about it. They see the value, and they are calling and saying we are ready. Some have procured ambulances. They see the value, and those ones definitely make it very easy. So we are not going to be worrying about the uptake, because they are already very proactive in getting themselves ready. So first, they must have a 112 number that's functional. The Nigeria Communication Commission have been working very well with us, and they are going to expand the 112 access to other states. Right now, I think there are 24 states that have the 112 access. So they are working on expanding it within the next few months, so that all states will have. The 4 states we have talked about already have that access. And once you have that access, then the next thing is the conjoint effort of the public and private hospitals to be visited and accredited, and then integrated into the plan, along with the ambulances that are going to provide service, and then the state team that is going to operate it.
All right, let's turn to Dr. Dambura once more. I want us to direct our concern now to the issue of technology, what technology can do to do a proper coordination of what we're doing in terms of interconnectivity that is required. Of course, to ensure that all the centers or call centers are properly, adequately equipped. And of course, off camera, we were talking about Nigerian communication satellite and the local content that you want to deploy from there. Because of course, if you understand the presidential directive or the other 5 is about local content. So let's share local content initiative on this with respect to technology and what you can gain from NIGCOMSAT.
Yeah, thank you very much. As we are all trying to reflect on the reminiscence of how ambulance services is actually being operated elsewhere in other countries, the advanced country, coordination is very key in terms of which also, kind of a software, real-time coordination using the local content. We felt that it's important to actually bring NIGCOMSAT to come to work together, because we are on the same trip with them. We went to Turkey with the NHIs and the Home Minister and their own Managing Director, and we were able to see collectively, saw it real time how the e-health works there. And so that partnership, actually, the need to come together to work as a country, as a team, to see how we are going to deliver the expected deliverables of the government in terms of strengthening the health sector becomes necessary. And we look at NIGCOMSAT, from that point of the software development, maintenance, and sustainability of such things, because if it is the government-owned company, you understand, actually working with us, just like Federal Road Safety working with us, then you'll be sure that that is going to be sustained, because it's a government entity, and it's also we are also government entity. So we're actually working it, and we're going to have another meeting also with the Managing Director and the Home Minister on that, and the DGNHI on that subject matter, to finalize on that subject, on that issue.
How much of involvement would you like the private sector to come in here with the experience you have from your tours of other countries of the world who have a very good ambulance system?
Yes, you see, I told you that this is a government-owned program, but it's going to be driven by the private sector, because the essence of actually bringing the private sector is to harness that potential, the pool of potential that is there in the private sector. If you look at the statistic of the ambulances we have, especially in the southern part of the country, it is more in the private sector. So there is no way you're going to run effective and efficient, some private ambulance services without partnership with the private sector. So we are very concerned about it, and that is part of our own vision, that we must work in partnership with the private sector in a bid to have an effective, efficient, timely response to provide treatment at a point of care at no cost to the patient in the country, across the country.
Okay, Dr. Osage, just before we round off, because we're running out of time, when I mentioned the challenges that the program has experienced so far, you mentioned some challenges, and of course number one was sensitization. Could you tell us what's the plan of the ministry, or how do you intend to solve some of these challenges as we go forward?
Well, first of all, which challenge you mentioned just now?
When I talked about challenges, you mentioned that sensitization is an issue.
Yes, of course, yes,
are not aware of the program,
right.
And then some other challenges that you have faced. So, what's the way forward? How do you intend to solve these challenges?
Well, the first one is the awareness creation, which I think people need to know that such a service is there, and that they can make use of it, and that it will not cost them anything at point of service. There are people who are probably afraid that they'll be asked to pay, and they may be asked to pay after, but it will not be a factor in rendering treatment to anyone at all. That's the first thing. Secondly, the question of crank calls, those who are making a joke of it. There are people who are pessimistic about anything that you set up in the country. They think it will not work, and they're making fun right from day one. Those people need to be told that there's no need to have a negative view of this. It's going to save lives. It's meant to save lives. It's meant to reduce all the delays we are talking about, and save a lot of suffering also. So we need more exposure. We need more time like this. We need to be able to, in fact, put it on air every now and then, that a service like that exists in the country, and the citizens should utilize this service. And it goes across the board, not only for accident, but for delivery, and even for domestic accidents. People will fall and have an injury at home, or maybe we spoke of gunshot wounds too, or where they have a fracture even in the home. Femur neck fracture is common with older people. Older people can stumble in the home and fall down. You can't move them. The number is there, 112, and you can get help. Or children who fall sick in the night. The three greatest killers of children are diarrhea, malaria, and pneumonia. So they get out of breath, they can be very sick, can be dehydrated, and you don't have that much time, if you are to save their lives, to begin treatment. So those ones too can utilize the service 112 and call for help.
Now, you talked about digital records. Are you not looking at how to solve that challenge, just so that You can have records of
yes, definitely the whole plan of the primary healthcare, in fact of healthcare in the whole country, is going to be leaning heavily on electronic medical records. We are going to be doing a lot of telemedicine, and this scheme will be driven also by digital technology, as even the operations of primary healthcare centers or health sectors as a whole, not only medical records, but record keeping and also management of claims and payments.
Yes, because the reason that we are talking about Nigerians, so you can't blame Nigerians so much for that, because many government policies have failed in the past. So even Nigerians are beginning to be used to failures of policies, and all that. So I don't blame them. But for real, you are telling Nigerians that this one is possible. Of course, it is already working, right? And I also like to ask the ministry to tell Nigerians what they're doing. There are channels to do that. There should be budget for that, so Nigerians will get to know and understand what you are doing. And on that note, I'd like to appreciate the Honourable Minister for being here this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. As always, he's one minister that has always obliged us, to come and speak to Nigerians on health matters. He has just done that again today. Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, and to continue our conversation, I still have the Secretary of the FCT here, of course, the guinea pig here, as you mentioned earlier, it's quite real and it is working. But I believe, quite frankly, that if it works in Abuja, it can work elsewhere. And with the involvement of the private sector, I believe it's going to work. But what are you getting in terms of your personal assessment, so far? What are you getting from the people? What is the reaction of the people with respect to this project?
Yeah, I think I ride on the Honourable Minister's speech on awareness specifically. I think Nigerians must know that the emergency medical transport and ambulance services is going to be for everybody. And the first 24 or 48 hours will be free for everybody. This is very, very critical for people to understand. From the point you make the call 112 to the point where you are going to be taken to a critical care center, and you'll be managed for the next 48 hours free of charge. This is very, very important for people to understand. Nobody will charge you for the transport, nobody will charge you for the care you received at the point of incident, and nobody will charge you for the care you receive within the next 48 hours in any facility that you've been taken to. I think if people understand that, it is they will appreciate more what the federal government meant by this particular program. And secondly, it is important also to note that once you make the call, people that will come to assess and manage are people that are into critical care. There are nurses that have been trained, and themselves, I'm happy to say, have been training even the drivers of the program. So you receive the first care, whether there is medical history or not. They make assessment. As clinicians, we know what to do immediately you meet an emergency care. Stabilize, sustain, transport to the nearest center where main care will be provided to that particular person. And again, like you said, technology will help a lot. Technology in terms of the communication, technology in terms of the electronic medical records. I'm happy to say that out of our 14 main hospitals, I think only 3 or 4 now that we are planning to fully put into the electronic medical record, which means that the moment you go into any public hospital in the FCT and you are able to click the name, you will get the past history of that particular case. And for the FCT, apart from the 240 something public facilities that we run, there are over 1,000 private facilities working within the state. And to cap it, when we talk of taking care of the main roads, we've already made an assessment from Buhari here, Sabon Muse, all the way to Abuja. We've taken care of specific health facilities like Kwali, the University Teaching Hospital, Abuja General Hospital, where these ambulances are stationed to particularly take care of these accident cases. In addition to what you have been done by the Federal Road Safety Commission and NEPA. And here down to Yanya, especially Yanya General Hospital, which is by your way into Nasarawa State. So it's part of the program, it's part of what we have been doing. And I believe in the next few months, will escalate to as many as is feasible, depending on how well coordinated it has become and how much support we are receiving from our national program.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Saidu Ahmed, for that explanation. We're actually running out of time, so just like Dr. Tafida, on a final note, what would you like Nigerians to know about this game?
Well, looking at it from that perspective, people can put it from a larger or more marine perspective, so to say, that is the media has a very big role to do. You understand? They're actually making people to understand what it's all about, what we are doing, and to also enable the people to have a real insight on what it takes for a person to access that care. That is one key, while appreciating the media also. The next thing is that to also give assurance to the private health sector providers, because as we are looking the private health sector potential for them to come in, you understand, to create opportunities, you understand, they need to have an assurance. And the assurance in this perspective is that there's a perpetuity in funding. You understand? Because what gives you assurance or guarantee is perpetuity in funding. The funding is not coming from the regular budget. It's coming from the statutory allocation. That means in as much as the Federal Republic of Nigeria exists and the Constitution of Nigeria exists, then funding will actually be flowing. And that gives you a social security or guarantee to the private sector that is funding. And already we have commenced that, and we are paying people for the services.
Well, it's good. If this funding is flowing, I hope it will flow with all administrations, not just the current administration.
That's what
in some cases, we don't have continuity in policy. Administration.
It has nothing to do with continuity here. You understand? Because the money is not a budget, it's not a regular budget. It's a statutory allocation. We don't have go to national. I understand. We automatically from the CRF.
We appreciate it. Like no time. My colleague will soon start of the program. Before we do that, people don't know that ambulance really is an acronym, which means Australia Medical Bureau under law and national corresponding emergencies. I don't know whether you have that, but that's a story for another day. But for now, my colleague will do justice.
All right, I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program this morning and enlightening us on the National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Abubakar Tafida, Secretary of City Health and Human Services Secretariat. Many thanks for joining us on the Morning Nigeria today. And of course, we hope that you would up your game in the FCT and get more people covered. I also want to thank Dr. Saidu Ahmed Dumbua, the National Program Manager, National Emergency Medical Services and Ambulance System, NEMSAS. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we thank the Honorable Minister of Health for us finding time to join us on the program this morning. So that's our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria. Now let's have sports news.
Chuba Akpom has been nominated for the Sky Bet Championship Player of the Month award for December 2022. Akpom scored 4 goals from Mikel Carrick's side during the month. The highlight was his hat-trick against Wigan Athletic on Boxing Day. The former Arsenal forward was also on target in the 2-0 win against Luton Town. Akpom has now scored 13 goals in 19 league appearances for Borough this season. Meanwhile, Galaxies of Ghana Group Stage Open in Morocco has pulled out of the 2022 African Nations Championship in Algeria. Morocco's Football Federation made the announcement in a release on Thursday, just 24 hours before the commencement of the tournament. The FRMF cited Algeria's closure of its airspace to Moroccan flights as the reason for pulling out. It said the Confederation of African Football (CAF) had informed it last month that Algeria had issued an authorization in principle for the flight. Algeria closed its airspace to all Moroccan flights in September 2021, the month after it cut off diplomatic ties with its fellow North African country, accusing it of hostile acts. The Moroccan team, which made history last month by becoming the first African or Arab team ever to reach the semi-finals of a World Cup, have won the past 2 CHAN tournaments. They were drawn in Group C with the Black Galaxies, Madagascar and Sudan. And in the EPL, it was a derby to forget for Joe Felix as the Portugal international was sent off in Chelsea's 2-1 loss to Fulham at Craven Cottage in Thursday's Premier League game. The Blues have now lost 3 straight games and winless in their 4 last fixtures. Fulham opened the scoring in 25 minutes through former Chelsea winger William. In the first 7 minutes, Chelsea equalized through Koulibaly, who bundled the loose ball over the goal line from Mrs. Miles' free kick. And following Felix sending off, Fulham took advantage and went 2-1 up on 73rd minute thanks to Carlos Vinicius.